Alton Towers Resort is one of Britain's biggest theme parks. The history of the attraction dates back over 100 years, and 2020 will be its 40th season operating as a theme park. In this new series, we are taking a look at the history of some of Alton Towers' most iconic attractions. This is Theme Park Realm, and today we are taking a look at the history of the Corkscrew. The Alton Towers grounds originally opened to the public in 1860. It wasn't until 1980 that the idea of turning the park into a fully fledged theme park really became a reality. A man called John Broome bought the controlling stake in Alton Towers Limited for £2 million and had a vision to transform the park. On the 4th of April 1980, the Corkscrew opened. This huge new ride was the first double corkscrew coaster in the UK. The Corkscrew was one of the most advanced rides for its time and cost the company £1.2 million to install. The ride itself was designed by Aerodynamics and manufactured by Vekoma. Vekoma were a fairly new coaster manufacturer, and the MK1200 was their very first model. Prior to the Alton Towers Corkscrew, they had only installed two other models. These were installed in 1979. The ride model was also referred to as a corkscrew with Bayern curve. The Bayern curve was quite a large, strange-looking element located near the end of the ride. It almost looked like a bent helix. The ride became very successful, and at least 8 clones were built in total over the years. During its opening year, the Corkscrew would commonly have 6-hour-long queues. The park often found themselves having to close early, as it couldn't take any further riders. During the 1980 season, visitor numbers doubled from around 500,000 to over 1 million by the end of the season. The Corkscrew started with a slow climb up a 23-metre lift hill. Once the car reached the top, it would complete a slow turnaround before entering the first drop. At the bottom of the first drop, the ride reached its top speed of 44 miles per hour. The ride featured a number of elements, including a camel hump, 2 corkscrews, the Bayern curve, and some smaller hills before entering the brakes. The ride overall achieved a maximum force of 3.1 Gs. The ride featured 2 trains, and the ride lasted around 1 minute 30 seconds in total. It was designed to carry up to 1,200 riders per hour. The ride itself was a travelling model, and you will notice that the underneath of the ride actually sat above the ground rather than having proper foundations. This made the removal of the ride incredibly simple, and if you look under the double corkscrew, there were actually huge blocks of concrete added to help keep the ride stable. Unfortunately, the ride itself became rough in later years, ultimately leading to declining ridership. When the ride first opened, it was placed into a new area of the park called Talbot Centre. This new area also featured a Rupert Bear magic show, the Adventureland playground, the Talbot restaurant, and more. As the Corkscrew got older, the experience became rougher, and in the mid-90s, Alton Towers decided to add new trains to the ride. These replaced the classic blue, red and white trains seen in older Alton Towers adverts. Although the area went through many changes over the years, the Corkscrew didn't really change significantly until 1999 when Ugland opened. Ugland was a new prehistoric themed area with dinosaurs and cavemen. The Corkscrew received a new coat of paint and the station was slightly upgraded. Ugland also saw the addition of theming added to the ride for the first time in its history. This helped bring the ride up to the standard of the more recent coasters at the park. Over the ride's life, over 43 million riders travelled round its track. The coaster's trains had travelled over 820,000 miles combined. the equivalent of travelling to the moon and back nearly 4 times. As the coaster reached nearly 3 decades of operation, it became less and less popular as each season passed. Although it remained a classic, it simply couldn't compete with the newer rides in the park. The park began to receive feedback about its uncomfortable ride experience and how people would receive a good head bashing whilst trying to enjoy the coaster. In 2005, Rita joined the area, one of the first coasters in many years not to hold a Secret Weapon project title. Merlin purchased the park only 2 years later, and they would be bringing a new long-term development plan to the park. At the start of the 2008 season, rumours began circulating that the ride was due to be removed that very year, and in October 2008 the park announced that Corkscrew would be removed to make way for a brand new project. The park hosted a special farewell event on the 9th of November 2008. It was during this event that the Corkscrew took its very final lap. The Corkscrew's track was deconstructed over the course of the next 2 months, and the famous double corkscrew was retained and restored in a brand new purple and gold colour scheme. The double corkscrew now sits above the main entrance plaza, greeting guests as they enter the park, and if you look closely it also has a plaque from Vekoma dedicated to the ride stats. What you might not know is that the Corkscrew's trains still live on to this day and can now be found on Big Loop at Heide Park, another Merlin-owned theme park in Europe. The Corkscrew's front car was actually sold initially for £7,200 via an auction held by the park. It is understood, however, that this was bought back by Merlin sometime later, before they moved all of the Corkscrew cars over to Big Loop at Heide Park. Of course, the Corkscrew itself was replaced eventually by Secret Weapon 6, or 13 as it's now known. The rides area was turned into the Dark Forest for the 2010 season, but if you look closely there are still many hints to the ride's past. Next time you ride 13, have a look at the track section before the station. On the side you will see the Corkscrew's lift hill motor. If you take a look at Rita, you may notice some of its supports are quite an odd shape. This is because Rita's supports were designed to sit above the Corkscrew's track. The Corkscrew may have gone, but it will always go down as the ride which made Alton Towers what it is today, and the famous Corkscrew sections will sit above the entrance plaza for many decades to come. If you did enjoy today's video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Do you have any memories of the Corkscrew? Let me know in the comments down below.